Hello.
Hello, welcome.
My Facebook tells me I have to redo something. I don't know. Technical issues are all around today. I can't reach Wangari, so I am just going to introduce her anyway. She's from Kenya and she has a wonderful program about colonialism and with music and storytelling. It says colonialism, a musical performance and oral history, a musical performance, oral history performance. And she's not here, but maybe she's coming. And I also say hello to his Crow. Maybe you can give us a. So wonderful that you're here from North America. His Crow is a teller of longhouse tales and indigenous tales and lives her life in the tradition of the Narragansett. And I also welcome Dirk Nowakowski, which had his interview just 1 week ago. Maybe Dirk, you can wave. Hello. And thank you also. I think it's Michaela next to him who's doing the translation for Dirk. A little bit.
For a short time. Yeah.
For a short time. Okay. So I'm very happy about this workshop because we are going to hear a little bit. Oh, Wangari is here. She's coming. Okay. She made it. That's great. And oh, she has some issues because she's out of the she's lost again. Okay. Yeah, and I wanted to ask my special guests if you want to share how you got into contact with the project Cultural Awareness and about your personal connection to the topic. And if you want, we would also, of course, be very happy if you want to share something about the workshops that you are going to share. If you like to just have, if you'd like to say some words to say hello, we would be very happy. Maybe I can ask Here's Crow to start.
Thank you, Momo. I'm absolutely delighted to be here, and I had the good fortune to be connected to Momo some time ago, and she told me about her project and what her goals were, and we asked each other lots of questions and found that there was a common link between the two of us, which was, what do we do about the stories? And lots of different ways to answer it, but I had already been doing a workshop that was related to cultural awareness, and I've been a storyteller for, I have no idea how long, 30, 40 something years probably. And to me, it is literally, and I know this may sound like an exaggeration, but I truly believe that our awareness of one another from different cultures is perhaps the greatest gift we have going forward with traditional stories, for they were the first education. And I am utterly delighted to now have a couple of different kinds of workshops having to do with cultural awareness. And of course, all of mine have to do with storytelling. And somebody says, how do you get to be a storyteller? I have no idea. I opened my mouth and out came stories. Thank you.
Thank you, Here's Crow. Very happy that you share. And I will hand over to Dirk. And Dirk, you can talk German, and I tried to translate. This will be like, oh wow, 2 storytellers trying to translate and to tell. I'm going to translate Dirk a little bit of what is going on, and
Thank you.
he will probably answer. Dirk, wir sind gerade dabei, kleine Vorstellungsrunde zu machen. Und wir freuen uns einfach, wenn du Lust hast, kurz zu teilen, wie deine Verbindung zu dem Projekt entstanden ist und wo du bist und wie du heißt. Einfach, wenn du ein paar Worte teilen willst, um Hallo zu sagen.
I tried. My English is very bad. I'm living in the middle of the Germany, near Heidelberg. And I'm storyteller since 40 years, yeah, nearly. That's all. That's enough, I think.
Well, okay, you can hear much more from Dirk in the interview. He has a very, very inspiring and insightful presentation, and I'm going to summarize it today for you, and we will work on his topic. So I'm happy you said hello to all of us. And I think Wangari is still having some issues. I don't know. Did she tell us something?
Yeah, I managed to finally.
Oh, yeah, we're just saying hello, and if you want, you can say hello to everybody. And we're asking, what's your connection to the project Cultural Awareness and Storytelling? Maybe you want to share a little bit about the upcoming workshop and your connection to the topic and the workshops we're doing here.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm sorry, I will keep my camera off, but my name is Wangari Grace. I love stories. I have been a storyteller for about 15 or more years now, with a background in theater. I think I love stories because stories do not preach to anyone, you know. Everyone picks from the story whatever the story speaks to them. And I think that's also kind of my philosophy in life, that, you know, there's never one right way to do things or to say things or to be. So, you know, do what works for you as long as it is for the good of not just yourself, but other people. So I met Momo both on and offline, and I think we share a number of things. And one of them is also about using stories as a way of communication. So for most of my life, I have worked with traditional stories because I love them, because they, yeah, you know, you pick what you can. But also the last couple of years, I've been working on a project with true stories, nonfiction stories, which for me, especially given the topics that we explore, I find a bit more, a bit more harder to deal with. Because they're very direct. You know, you deal with things, you know, in a more literal way compared to traditional stories where you can pick whatever it is you want. But I also love it because, it's also a way of opening discussions into difficult conversations, which we as Kenyans are very good at avoiding, especially. We don't like difficult conversations. So I love that stories allow that. And I'm looking forward to being part of a number of the workshops that I saw, amazing workshops. I hope that I can be able to make the time. In the middle of May, I'll be doing a session around interactivity, because I think that's the one thing that you will find in whatever kind of performance I am doing, is that I love interacting with my audience. So in the session, we'll look at different ways where you can interact with your audience and hopefully have fun doing that.
Yeah, thank you, Wangari. I'm looking forward to your workshop also, and I think it's just magic that it will be the last one of the 6. So we have interaction and some great hands-on stuff at the end of the 6 workshops coming up. Great.
Momo, could you just have a look at your chat, please?
At my chat.
Yes.
Okay, let's see if I can find it. Yes. That's true. Yes. And we also have Ursula Strux here. She is doing a workshop herself too. Do you want to share something? It's going to be the next one next week.
Yeah, it's about the cultural other. So it's about how we deal with the stranger, how we construct and reconstruct identity around meeting with the stranger. So it's more basic stuff. I'm trying to find a bridge to the stories. And basically, I want to give it to you in the workshop that we can get the bridge to the stories. And I just throw in what I have as basic stuff. It's a lot. I make a short introduction, and then you go into breakout rooms and have a chat, and we bring it together. So it's not me lecturing, it's a lot of work together. And we just put it together and have a result in the end. So I'm really looking forward to that. All the input that comes from you. And hopefully you'll all be there again next week. I'm taking notes at the same time, getting a lot of ideas.
That's great.
Okay.
Thank you so much. That's like a bridge to everything which is going on now, because you were talking about a bridge, and we will also be talking about the image of a bridge, which is the topic of the of Dirk's presentation. And yeah, so we got to know a little bit of each other. So I think the first thing we're going to do is to build groups, and also just like sneak a little bit into the workshop, because we will come back to the group 3 times. So this is the first time just for us to get to know each other. And I think Viktoria has some questions for us to explore while we're in the breakout rooms.
Exactly. So you will have the chance for this time to just get to know each other a little bit, arrive with each other, so that we can prepare the ground for more like the deeper reflections that will come later throughout the call. And we have some questions for you, and they are here in the chat. So if you want to share again a tiny bit about who you are or where you are. And then our question is, why are you here? What are you curious about concerning the topic of this workshop today? And I would suggest that you first have all the opportunity to talk about these questions, and then you could do a second round, second circle, to talk to each other, to find something that all of you in your group liked, and based on this thing that you or activity that you all like, you can find a name for your group. Do you have questions so far? Because before we open the sessions, then we would like to give you 10 minutes in the group, and after 5 minutes, I'll just write you a short message so that you can keep track of the time and make sure all of you can speak, and that you come back with a name. So enjoy, have a good time.
Hello.
If I look, when I look into your faces, I regret that I wasn't in the breakout sessions myself. Yes, and I would be so happy to hear a bit from you, which names you found for your group. And maybe we can first start with group number 1. Which name did you find?
I think we were group number 1, and we are the Mandala group.
Welcome, Mandala group. How about group number 2?
I don't know.
Was that our group?
Yes.
Okay. And everybody's being quiet because we had just started getting to that part. We were all listening very attentively to one another, and we didn't get to the name. So if you're going to put us back in the same group, we'll be the apples until we pick a name.
The apples and the listening group. Great. Welcome. And what about group number 3?
Who wants to speak? I don't know who wants to speak. We were just thinking about our name. And we thought about something like we were talking about the sun and the eclipse at the end. And we thought about something, the sun or eclipse. Does anybody, Priyanka, do you have an idea how we could name us? Does anybody just know our name of the group?
Sarah mentioned about connection,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm not wrong. So I suggested, Fran spoke about solar eclipse. So if Fran, Sarah, and you and Wangari agree, maybe we can keep something with sun, because sun is something that connects all of us, wherever we are, whichever part of the world.
Yes,
So
Crow has an idea, I think.
How about if you were the corona, the light that shines in the greatest darkness? That's what storytellers should be.
Is that okay for you?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Sounds good.
Oh, hi, Sarah.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Here's Pro. Lovely.
So thank you. And with that, I would like to pass it on to Momo.
Oh my God, I have to see what's going on. I was thinking if I go in the breakout rooms, I'm not gonna be in our thing, but I know what I'm doing. Yes. I wanted to introduce, I don't know how many of you have really listened, already had time to listen to Dirk's interview and presentation. Like some of you might see somebody, some say this, some say this, say something. So it's okay. So my thought was to summarize it a little bit and we just walk through it. And then you're probably going to be very curious and I hope you're going to listen to it later. And Dirk, if you hear me something say, or you say, oh, Momo, what is she telling? I'm trying to summarize this in English and my English is is still evolving, let's say it like this. So please just stop me, Dirk, if you hear something that doesn't work for you, because it was a long interview.
I take my translator.
Okay. Great. So I'm going to do it very brief. First, Dirk, he was just introducing himself. I had a little bit about his journey as a storyteller. And I'm going to tell a little bit of his background so you kind of have an orientation. He grew up in a working class area of the Ruhr area in Germany. And he was introduced with storytelling, and you have to listen to that because it's a very sweet story, through radio programs for children, because he wanted to record it for his foster father. And that's how he got addicted to stories in his early ages. And he started then a career with technical trades, working in youth clubs, and eventually later on with a lot of like steps in between, he ended up in a museum, and his job was to do guided tours for fifth graders. And now I have to, in an ethnographic museum. So he decided that he's going to tell stories to the fifth graders from the cultural backgrounds of what he saw in the museum, to connect them to this cultural heritage. So he began to do this. And as he was doing it, he began to question and he began to do research about the stories, how they were collected, if they are really connecting to the cultural heritage and all of that. So he kind of went as somebody he didn't even know that this is storytelling. I think he was the Europäische Märchengesellschaft found him because he said, I'm telling some stories, and the storytelling community in that days was very, very small in Germany. So he went to be a storyteller, as Hirschko said, because he was telling stories. And that's also the way how he got into his research to the stories and the background of the stories, how we can find them in the books. And you kind of read fairy tales books from all around the world and how did they get there. So that's how it emerged that he did this presentation, which is called, which I translated as Storytelling, a Bridge of, between cultures. If I have the English one, I never get the German one. So he has a question mark at the end with this, is it a bridge to cultures? And that is very interesting for the end of our workshop. But in the first part, I wanted to summarize all of the things he found out while he was doing the research to the stories he was telling and he wanted to tell in the museum. And the stories were often collected by colonial administrators and missionaries and explorers who did not really understand the cultural context. And their intention of collecting was driven by a mindset that was really very disturbing when I heard his interview the first time, the mindset, how the collectors of the stories went there to find the stories. It's mainly to study exotic or primitive nature of colonized people, reinforcing the colonial stereotypes, and for the purpose of getting access and to manipulate. Sorry, I'm trying to do this and read a little bit of my English, so I'm excusing my English stuff. I have to read a little bit. So he is telling from some different circumstances under which the stories were told and listened to, and the way they were written down. And he has a lot of aspects to this to tell, so I can't summarize all of that. But sometimes when I listen to, maybe you know this, if you think about colonialism and all of that happened in that time, it sometimes is really hard to listen to this history of mankind, what we did to each other. And he is taking us in those situations, how it was collected, and that those stories that you really have to dive deep into the way the stories are collected. And on the other side, he says that there are texts and stories that were collected like this, and they are still available and even printed newly, 2017, without comments at all. So after I was hearing his presentation the first time, it's kind of like no ground under the feet anymore, because I have no trust in what I read. Like if I fall in love with the story because I read it, how can I trust what I read? Dirk also addresses the image of the noble savage, which is another stereotype that gets connected to the stories that were collected in a way as I described before. So everything turns around like this, if we think of that perception of the story. Likewise, I felt this vulnerable feeling of how can I trust, and this feeling by listening to Wangari's performance about colonialism, like how do we work with those feelings that occur when we listen to these historic facts. Since this is something we want to overcome. So I wanted to stop summarizing this topic at this point for us to just let it sink a little bit and also to reflect these feelings that occur when we hear about these facts and how the stories were collected and the situation we are now in if we conquer these stories like that. So I think I will, if Dirk didn't say anything, he was not doing anything like this, so I think it's okay. It's okay, great. So I will pass over to Viktoria because we have, I think she has the questions for us, for our groups.
And I saw that Ursula just posted a question in the chat. Can you generalize it? Were their collectors interested in exchange rather than domination or idealization? And it's great that you already share a question, and I think I would like to give you the opportunity in your groups to bring together questions like these. And we do also have questions for you. And they are, what touched you when you listened to Dirk's talk or when you just listened to what Momo summarized? And the second question is, how do you feel when you are confronted with pieces of individual or collective suffering that is related to colonialism? And maybe there are also different feelings that occur to you. And our third question is, what do you long for, thinking of these bridges about how to deal with the past and how it has continued until now with colonial structures and colonial heritage. And for this, we would like to give you 10 minutes again, so that you can share in the groups, and please make sure that everyone has the chance to speak up. And with that, I will open the groups. So see you in some minutes.
Bye. Good night.
Good night. I'm happy that you could be here, but it must be late.
Oh, good night.
Thank you. It's going to be 11:45. Sorry, and I
Oh,
have to wake
okay.
up
Good
early
night,
tomorrow
Shilpa.
at 5
So
o'clock.
you can listen to the recording after the because we're going to
Yes,
have breakout rooms.
yes.
So you're not going because this is the hard point, and now we're building a bridge. So I'm happy
Yeah.
to listen to the recording.
Yes, yes. I'll listen to the recording. Yes. And yes, but I hope I'll be able to attend the remaining workshops. They all are going to be at the same time. I'll try to attend.
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
so sorry. I was doing this like 1.5 years ago. I was scheduling it while I was doing a crowdfunding for the project, and I had no international experience at all. My English was very low, and I was just not thinking about time zones at all. I'm very sorry about that one. So late for
I
you.
think I have heard earlier interview which you had taken of Wangari.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
isn't it? Yes.
you can find everything on the I'm gonna share in the chat.
No,
Everything.
I have listened to it. I think it
Oh,
was
great.
3-4 months back, if I'm not wrong.
It was?
3-4 months back?
Yes, it was all
Yes.
last year, and all of the
Oh
interviews.
yeah. Yes. I have listened to that interview. And then there was one more. The next one also. I am not able to recall right now, but I have heard. I
So we
heard
have
2 interviews.
Yeah, it was one with here's Crow, who is here, and the
Yeah.
other one.
Yes. Pro is,
And the other
yes.
one is with Chandrika Yoshi about Hindu stories Hindu storytelling?
Yes.
Yes, and now
Yes.
with Dirk. So we have 4 interviews until now.
Yes. Chandrika's I have heard. Yes. I
Oh,
was
how
not able to recall. Yes.
how
No,
did you like it?
because of course I'm an Indian, so, Hindu mythology, so I am very keen on all that. So I made it a point to listen to it at my own
Oh,
convenience.
great.
Yes.
Oh, great.
So, but this time I thought, why not attend it? But it's going to be 11:45 and a bit difficult for me to keep
Of
awake.
course. All the best
So
for you for that.
thank you so much. It was glad to be here, and probably I'll attend the next one also. I've registered for all the 6 workshops.
Then you're on the list.
Yes. I am there on the list for all the 6 workshops.
Great.
You had asked me. Yes. Yeah. I had mailed you, and I'll try to attend the remaining
Great.
workshops. Even if
Wonderful.
it's for 45 minutes or 50 minutes, but I'll try to attend.
Great.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night, Shilpa.
Hi, Momo. I wrote you on the chat, so I'm a bit lost. So there are interviews with Dirk and with Wangari. I would love to have the links maybe or something because I didn't came across them.
Maybe Victoria can share the link in the
Thank
chat.
you.
It's all on one place. It's one website. You can list with some with all the interviews and all the workshops. You can find it in there.
Mm.
So I think Victoria
Okay.
already.
Thank you.
So we're still waiting for everybody to come back. Hi, Selena. I didn't say hello. We're just going like sneaky. Hi.
Hi, Momo. So
Nice
good to
to
see
meet
you.
you.
Sorry I was late.
No problem.
Yeah, maybe I can just add something to what I just said before the break, because in the beginning of this year, I took a training around racism and colonialism, so difficult issues. And the trainers, they said that it's so essential to have fun when dealing with those topics, because otherwise you will just stop and not continue. And so we need also to have fun and to enjoy the time dealing with everything that is messed up. And for me, that was really good to hear and to take with me, to allow myself to have fun in this journey. And yeah, then I think, Momo, you can just continue when you
I'm going
feel
to
like.
continue, maybe, yes. I hope everybody's coming back. So it's time to take the image of the bridge into our workshop after we have fallen into all of that history. Since the and I want to share a few of the thoughts of Dirk, and they are it's not just a bridge and easy. He has a lot of thoughts about the bridge, so I'm trying to summarize this one. Dirk, you still do something crazy with your screen if I'm telling something crazy. If you hear something that doesn't feel right. Dirk, or do you want to say something, Dirk?
No, it's okay. It's
Okay. Well, Dirk was taking the bridge as a symbol for storytelling. In fact, this was something ChatGPT made for me. I don't know if I would have summarized it like this, so I'm gonna summarize it for you. The bridge, not everything, some of it. The bridge as a symbol for storytelling, representing connections between different cultures, generations, and worldviews. And then I was beginning to write for myself. In his presentation, I was imagining the bridge. He has a very nice picture of the bridge, how it's built, how difficult it is, the construction and people working on the bridge, and some bridges going like this, like how do you connect it, how you build the bridge that you have it, that it really works. He was talking about the bridge, if it's finished, it looks like just you go over the gap in the landscape, and it's just an easy way to go. But how is it to build it? What's the way to build it? Something very different. And in his presentation, he also talks about the bridge going back in the past and into the foreign. If you look at one side of the bridge, and that was a very interesting thought, because we are dealing with traditional stories, and they reach in the back, they reach in the past, and they also reach into another culture, or in the foreign land. So that was a very interesting thing to think about. But Dirk also doubted whether the image was really applicable. And he was thinking about the gap between the gap over which the bridge is going. Is it, and I was discussing this with my husband because I was working on this, and we were sitting on the sofa and we were beginning to discuss. I was writing down if there are gaps between cultures, there are natural gaps like language or customs, but there are also man-made gaps like colonialism, racism, and everything we were talking about before. And Dirk had also had this idea in his presentation. Well, maybe it's not only about building bridges, but maybe we could fill up the gap. So that was a very interesting idea also. Since he was talking about mankind was always traveling all the time and mixing cultural heritages through stories. So what is the gap? What is the bridge? Well, he still stayed with the image of storytelling as a bridge in between his presentation. And he talked about his beliefs that storytelling can act as a bridge, enabling the crossing over those cultural gaps and fostering understanding. But since you don't see the construction, it just flows over the gap. He asks questions like, what is the material and how is the bridge constructed? And all in all, Dirk emphasizes the importance of building bridges in a multicultural society, allowing for a richer exchange of ideas and traditions. I don't know if I was missing something, but I'm just gonna, Viktoria, don't share it yet, the questions. I'm gonna just put the questions into our minds that I came up that we can discuss in the next round. So I just tried out some questions, like wild questions about the bridge, because I wanted to let us like go and think out of the box and do stuff like that. So I had questions like, do we need a bridge? What is the gap? What could fill the gap? Does it need to be filled? And how can this be done with storytelling, or could it be done with storytelling? Where is the need for a bridge? And what could be the material if we think of stories and storytelling? How could it be constructed? How are the bridge builders? Who are the bridge builders? And who else is involved? And if we imagine the bridge as a finished construction, how does the traffic look like? Who's meeting up there? And we could play along with this image as storytellers to have a nice view and having fun, like Viktoria said. And what other out of the box images occur if you play with the image of the bridge being storytelling? And then we received a question via email right before the workshop, and I wanted to include this also in our thoughts in the next breakout room. And it was Birgit, and she asked the question, can our work around the image of a bridge give in? Oh, no, sorry, I read the wrong line, sorry. She asked the question, I listened to Dirk's presentation, so much knowledge, so much experience. But of course, you want to know how exactly do I go about telling an Inuit or African or Indian, all of everything like this story, for example. How, because they are already out there. They are told they're out there, and that's her question. So maybe I thought, can our work around the image of a bridge give insights and idea to this question Birgit was asking after she heard the interview? Yep, that's around the questions, and I will give back to Viktoria after that summarization. No, summarization, that's not a word.
Summary.
Summary, yes, thank you. German is so funny because you also do a Stern hinten at the back, and you try that with English and it kind of sounds crazy. Okay.
So you have noticed it was a long list of questions that Momo just shared, and I have written them down for you. And I prepared some technical stuff that this time works. So every group will have a document, and in this document, you see all those questions. And maybe you first want to do a quick round and share with each other which question or which questions really interest you a lot, because we won't have time to discuss everything in depth, but so you can pick what speaks to you right now. And yeah, then you have some time to discuss, and if possible to take notes in the document. You can all edit the document, and that will help us to harvest your thoughts and to bring them back together to the big circle afterwards when we meet and we have some time to discuss in the whole group, and also to yeah, to harvest it for later, to be able to dive deeper with the individual questions. So in the chat you have the pads, so it's one per group, and then I will open the groups.
Just a
and
minute. We have to,
yes,
just for organizing your group, it would be best in the beginning, before you begin to discuss the questions, if you can choose somebody who's going to type into the document, and maybe also think about who's going to share later in the group, who's going to do like the sharing of everything you were discussing in the group, like the one speaking. I don't know if it's the right wording. Okay.
and I'm always really happy to hear lots of different voices. So maybe if you like, there wasn't lots of room to exchange so far, but just that you make sure that yeah, that many people can actively participate. Okay, then I will start the sessions, and you have something like 17 minutes. There will be 2 minutes in the end to wrap everything up. Enjoy. I hope that you can, yeah, enjoy the time.
Whoops.
Not enough time.
Again.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Fran, we need to have Fran finish her sentence.
Yeah, I think so too. Fran, do you want to finish it?
Well, thank you. I was saying that sometimes a storyteller hears someone tell a story or finds it in a book and they say, oh, I love that story so much. I don't care if I have to beg, borrow, or steal. I want that story. And I pointed out there are some kinds of stories where you must beg. If you want permission to tell a copyrighted original story or a story that is very important to a tradition, you must beg, you must get permission, you must learn what the guidelines are about when and how it can be told, and you must follow those or else don't tell the story. There are some where you can borrow a story, and just as if you were borrowing a tool from a neighbor, you would use it properly and take care of it and not modify it so that when you give it back, your neighbor would say, what have you done to my story? So you might borrow a story, tell it in your own words or something, but it should still be recognizable. And then there's the steal category, because musicians are even worse than storytellers to find the motif of a, say, like a Cinderella, which has traveled or whatever, and has been reworked just the way car thieves will change the paint and file off the serial numbers and then sell it as a different car. That's stealing, but steal it fair and square and make it fresh and put new paint, new material to the motif. Don't just put on a different hat and say now it's from another culture. Anyway,
Wow.
thank you.
Thank you, Fran. And welcome back to everyone. And yes, I would have liked so much to give you more time, but also we chose that it's also important, or that it can be fruitful, to hear from us all a little bit. And I hope that you also like that, to have the possibility now to exchange with everyone here. And I would really love to hear a bit from every group to start with. And yes, I just the space is yours.
In Mandala group.
Yes,
we
Mandala group.
we had idea. I mean, that was David's idea about the bridge, but I will tell it because it was so good. So the idea of the bridge was the Mobius spiral bridge. You know the Mobius. I don't know if you like it, if you know it. So maybe David can explain. But anyway, it contains two things because it's infinite. At the same time, you can change the perspective going round around you. Sometimes you go upside down, and sometimes you go straight. So this is a very beautiful idea. I really love it.
Love that.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing from the Mandala group. And then how about the sisters? What glimpse could you share?
Selena, could you speak for the sisters, honey? Because you did the notes.
Sorry, I'm just holding a microwave in my parents' kitchen at the moment. What is the question? And then I'll try to do my best.
Just to really briefly summarize, to give us a few pieces of your thoughts.
Oh gosh. I'm blank. We see the bridge as being, it has to have respect, and we have to be able to, the storytellers and the story listeners, and building a community of respect back and forth. It's not necessarily something that's visceral that you can to build. It has to be, it's through, sorry, I'm just disconnected right now. Through being respectful, through listening, through sharing. Help me out, ladies. I was just typing. I didn't necessarily transmit to the brain. Here's Crow. Something else?
We talked about the fact that the gap doesn't necessarily need to be filled. There is some benefit to leaving room for adjustments and so forth as we go. It's also, if the gap doesn't need to be filled, there needs to at least be a conduit, a channel, a methodology to keep the energy and the growth
Moving back and forth.
flowing in both directions.
Yeah.
And it requires the information that we can gain from the other culture and their willingness to ask us questions for us to answer honestly about our culture. And once you learn how to do that, man, does that make communicating with other human beings easy. Because you know what? In the same state, you can have 5 different cultures. You can have a Hispanic culture. You can have a Canadian culture. You can have a European culture. You can have different racial cultures. So all of that are things that are the material from which the bridges can be built. Sorry.
And this is Sarah. I will add one more thing that we talked about as well.
Please.
Is that when we do that, when we build that bridge, it lets the others from the culture know that they're being seen and not just heard. Also heard as well as being seen. I think in terms of as I was growing up as a child, no one came and told stories about my culture. No one told stories about my people. I vowed that when I became an adult, that when I told stories to children, I was going to look at that room and I would be able to share with them a story from their culture so they can go home and say, this lady came in and she told us a story about me and my people. And I want to know more, because that's the bridge to get to know each other, make this world a better place. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you to all the sisters. And I would love to hear a bit from the Corona group. Who would be up for sharing some pieces?
I can start with something. Fran, Fran, would you like to share? You were just starting to. We were talking about. I'm going to try that one because I was really inspired by that. That sometimes we don't see the gap between the cultures, and if you tell a story, yeah, Fran was telling that you're just into one thing, and you're enculturated in one culture, and you don't even see that there is another way to think. And if you and then you hear a story and begin to understand that there is a gap at all, that that you can think in another way, like seeing the gap for the first time. And yeah, and Priyanka said, what our mind doesn't know, our eyes don't see. So that was a very, very nice way of thinking.
Perhaps a brief example. Recently, teachers preparing to teach about the total solar eclipse that was going to go across the eastern half of America. And there was a cautionary post that came up and said, please be aware that some indigenous cultures feel that instead of putting on your glasses and running out to look at the eclipse, that you must go inside and fast and pray and be quiet during this time. It is a fraught time in the universe, and just because you want to teach about the sun and the moon and the rotation and don't require those children to go out and do those things with you. And I think it was a kind of awakening for people who had assumed that of course everyone's going to go out and look at the eclipse. And if you do, if you presume that your point of view and your values are the only ones, because those are the only ones you know, so they must be universal, it can be quite a shock to run into other values, and that's where stories can be useful to show you that there is a gap.
Thank you for sharing this interesting story. And yeah, we are already running a bit late on time, unfortunately, but I would love to just that we can hear some more voices, just as a conversation. Sarah.
And I'm in the Fran and Momo and Bianca's group and Wangari's group. So again, the gap, there is a gap, which is lack of understanding, and the bridge itself, the constructive pieces are the stories to be able to add to the lessening of the gap or filling in the gap with understandings outside of perhaps the perceptions that we had before we heard the stories.
Do you have any more thoughts or questions that you'd like to share?
I would like to know the answer on the question of Ursula. Like if Dirk can say something to it or any other. Just from the beginning.
Yeah, it was the question. Thank you, Simone. It was the question whether there were any, and sorry for the misspelling, whether there were any collectors who respected, who collected with respect and wanting to really learn about the culture. And David had examples from the Spanish, right?
Yes, from the conquistadors who came into what is commonly known as Mesoamerica. And with them, there were monks and priests and all them good people. And a lot of the monks themselves, really, from what I have read and what I have studied, were really sympathetic to the native, to the Mesoamericans, to the Aztec, the Mixtec, the Olmec, whomever they came into. And a lot of the priests and the monks would actually write down the stories of the people as it was told to him directly. They didn't make up anything. And so it's been shown that the stories that were shared to those Spanish conquistadores or the monks, whatever you want to call them, it has been shown through the translations of the petroglyphs that the stories are exactly as was given. The pronunciations were different because the languages were different, but still, they did their best and they did write down the stories just like we're told. That no one had a made-up story, if you want to know. So the collectors I'm familiar with, I'm very much a respect for what they did.
Yes, I was sharing that in my group too, that that Dirk, in his interview, if you see it, he's talking a lot also about researchers that he trusted, and they don't only have the story written down, but they also tell the circumstances where the stories were told in, and that Dirk's way to respect the story was also to tell in his storytelling while going through the museum. He's collecting those circumstances or the ways the stories are told, and then he tells about that, and then he tells the stories, and he's very sensible about really doing research on the researcher, that they are collected in a very good way. So I was always, I also said, like, if we think about the material of the bridge, as we are very, very individual storytellers, sometimes it goes like, okay, I can find a researcher, like I'm researching myself to find good written down stories. And another way is like interconnecting with storytellers from all around the world and just asking them about the stories you're working on, or asking for permission if it's an indigenous tale, or any tale you think you should maybe reach out for that. So I think that is like my searching is what kind of construction to have the stories be a bridge, because sometimes you can feel like you're doing a bridge, but you're not doing it, and you don't know about it because you didn't know that you weren't respectful. So something like this can happen too. So I think there's a lot of different ways to find this construction of this material, like finding a good researcher, doing or interconnecting, and maybe there are some more things what my mind doesn't know because my eyes don't see. So I'm also searching about that. What could be a good way to construct it, this bridge, and to work on it.
It's nice that in Priyanka's background there's a bridge, actually.
Yes, I like that too.
Okay, we come to the end of our call, but is there anything that you feel really wants to get out, wants to be shared? Ursula?
I'm just going to build the bridge to my workshop next week, because the bridge is actually a nice image. In the workshop, it's going to be about different points of view, and I think the bridge, whoever sees the bridge sees it differently. So if there's a bridge connecting two cultures, two groups, one group is going to see the bridge in this way, and the other group is going to see a completely different bridge, and the bridge is going to change in the contact, and going to be rebuilt with different stones and different material. So it's all about the construction, basically, and the interplay between the groups. So I'd be happy to see you. I just wanted to mention again that continuing. So if you want to join, I'd be happy.
And I would also be happy to see you next week again in Ursula's workshop.
Me too. I'm very happy that you were here doing this first workshop with us, and I'm now very happy to attend all of them, all of the 5 ones that are coming to us, and I'm very happy to see you again too. Yeah, and spread the word. Please tell about these workshops. We had some, or I am having 3 projects at one time, so I didn't have much time to do a lot of advertisement. So it would be great if you would spread the word, so people can have access. And I will send us after I also have a problem with my newsletter system, so you're getting newsletters from my private account now. But I wanted to do a survey, so I would love if you can take the survey, and I also would take a testimonial, not only to just spread the word, but also to maybe get funding. So if we have testimonials, we could give it to some funding possibilities, because it's a lot of work, and without a funding, we can't go on. So these testimonials would be something very, very great for funding, and also, of course, the donation, which would be would make it possible to go on. And I will send you a mail for that. Thank you for being here and taking all your energy and your thoughts and your feelings into it, and moving and building and thinking about the bridge today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And if you want, you can just share a word in the chat before leaving the space about what is it that you actually take from this evening. And maybe with sleeping over the night, some more things will evolve, but what is it right now that you can already put into words?
Momo, vielleicht kannst du noch sagen in Englisch, also wenn die Leute meinen Vortrag wirklich lesen und Fragen haben, dass sie mich natürlich gerne fragen können. Ich kann es mir dann ja auch übersetzen, also wenn ich es schriftlich habe, ne? Dass sie mir eine E-Mail schicken können, wenn die konkret nochmal irgendwelche Literaturhinweise oder was auch immer. Ne?
Yeah, Dirk is saying that that whenever you listen to his interview and his workshop, interview and his presentation, if you have any questions, you can contact Dirk, or you just write a mail to to our email address, and he can translate it with a translating app, and he will be happy to answer your questions on his presentation. Thank you, Dirk. Danke, Dirk.
Danke. Thank you.
And thank you, Dirk, for that we could have your talk as a basis for this workshop.
Thank you very much for that.
Bye.
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 Bye,
Bye,
everyone.
Bye, everyone.
See you again soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So nice to read from you, Agnieszka.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was so interesting, and there are people with different perspective, and we could all meet and exchange our points of view. It's so beautiful, so
I'm
amazing.
so happy to hear that.
Really. So then I can share to my